Many people are attending a Bashar session for the very first time, please? Okay, a few of you. Thank you for coming. For the new people, very, very briefly, just to sort of bring you up to speed and let you know what's going on here and how to participate. This channeling is ostensibly a connection, a telepathic connection between myself and what presents itself as an extraterrestrial consciousness that we call Bashar, which is actually an Arabic word that means messenger, since he doesn't have a name for himself in their telepathic society. I say ostensibly because there's nothing I can prove about Bashar's existence other than the way it presents itself. We just simply let it present itself however it does. We assume that someday we might be able to have some kind of concrete proof of his physicality. Until then, the important thing is the information itself, and that's what he would rather we focus on anyway. Since it seems to have the ability to help people, is the reason I began the channeling or continued with it once I realized that this agreement had been made, and been doing this now for about 13 years. The way that this basically unfolds is I will go into the altered state, and Bashar will come through when the telepathic connection is made. He will talk about what he thinks is important for a few minutes, but he's going to turn the majority of the session over to you for questions and answers. Whatever it is that you feel you want to talk about is fine. It doesn't matter what the subject is. It doesn't have to be cosmic. It can be personal. As long as you're comfortable talking about it in front of a group, it doesn't matter what the subject is. So please don't be shy on that account. You can see that the way we do this is this middle aisle is reserved for questioners. So as each person comes up and gets their question answered and then sits down and everyone moves up, the last seat is vacated. So if you have a question you want to ask, by all means jump in that line as it empties and take your turn that way. Just be direct with him. You'll catch on pretty quick. You'll see how this goes. And that's really all there is to it. Just have an informal conversation like you would with anyone. The next session we'll be having here will be on Saturday, October 26th, next month. So that's the next time we'll be here. Is there anything else I need to say? Am I forgetting anything? All right. Does anyone that's new have a question about procedures, anything they think they need to understand to be clear about this and participate? Yeah, okay, well, yeah, we usually ask people, though I hear it doesn't always work, but we usually ask people to at least make an attempt to focus on one or two important questions rather than 12, just so we get enough people through, as many people through in the limited amount of time that we have, give everyone a chance to ask their question. Sometimes Bashar will lead you in the conversation, and by all means follow the lead, but if you can, when you come up, get yourself prepared and try to focus on what really is the single most important issue, the one or two questions that you really feel you really must ask, or things you want to discuss, so that we can get as many people through as possible. And I think that's about it, other than have fun, and thank you again for coming, and I will see you later. Once again, we take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively for allowing our civilization to communicate through this gate in this way at this time. Each and every time you afford us the opportunity to interact with your civilization, it is a great gift to us that allows us to experience through each and every one of your unique selves that many more facets of the multidimensional crystal of all that is. So we thank you for expanding our understanding of the many more ways that the infinite can express itself. We would like to begin this communication link with the following idea, a notion that many of you have discussed with us many, many times, and we would like to address in a very simplified and basic form at this time, and that is the issue you call health. Many individuals on your planet are very concerned about their health at this time for a variety of reasons. They are recognizing that perhaps their environment is not necessarily as conducive to health as you might like it to be, and thus you are finding yourselves for quite some time, and perhaps now at an accelerated rate, afflicted with many different kinds of diseases and conditions that are not necessarily representative of your ideal state of natural beingness, or what you might call simply health. Let us talk about the basics that need to be involved before you really focus on any kind of specific symptomology that might be connected to any particular kind of labeled disease, one of the exotic variety of many of the things that you have on your planet. Let us talk about what is necessary to incorporate in your lives if you really want to lay a foundation for health. Many of you really have heard many of these things quite often. They are not really new to you, but again, many of you may tend to forget when you come across the idea, whether it is you yourself or someone else, of a so-called specific disease. You tend to forget the idea very often that it requires a very basic understanding to begin with to create an environment within your body that will, in many cases, simply prevent the onset of any kind of disease whatsoever. These basic requirements, again, you have all heard them, but let us take a refresher course at this time, and it is basically as follows. It really is, in your terms, quite a moot point to discuss any specificity about the idea of how to cure this, how to get rid of that, how to clear this and that up, unless and until each and every one is fully utilizing these simple principles in their life. And number one would simply be this: oxygen. Many of you do not necessarily allow yourselves to get full requirement of oxygen into your systems, especially, no offense, in the way that your atmosphere happens to be at this time in terms of the fact that it is loaded with pollutants. The idea, of course, is the oxygenation of the system is the primary fundamental key that allows all of your cells the capacity to build themselves in the way that they need to be built. Oxygenation of the system is the fundamental element to begin with, and can to some degree be enhanced to the best of your ability by making at least an attempt to find some relatively clean environment, and or at least oxygenation of the system through the idea of deep breathing exercises, some kind of yogic practice, or at least some kind of restful meditation wherein there are deep, regular breaths, or at least the idea of relaxation so that you are not, in that sense, panic breathing, which is short breaths, do not allow the idea for oxygenation of the system to fully occur. Number one, then, oxygenation of the system. Number two, hydration of the system. Do you have enough water? You are, as physiological beings, mostly water, yet many of you will ingest many things that will actually divest you of the hydration of your system, dehydrate you. And as many of you are beginning to understand, many of the so-called symptomologies that you might begin to attribute to many exotic diseases are actually nothing more than the symptoms of dehydration. In the sense, then, that your body is similar, in a sense, by analogy to a battery. If you do not have proper hydration, not enough water, then your cells, in that sense, can burn out, short out. You can become, in that sense, dry, like a battery, and cease to function, cease to become electrically conductive. And in that sense, also, lack of hydration, lack of water in the system will not allow your cellular structure to flush the toxins in your system from the system, and this can cause many forms of buildup that will allow the immunological system and many cellular and enzymatic functions to cease, thus again causing many different kinds of symptomologies that can then open the door and lead the way to opportunistic organisms to bring about more and more complete forms of disease. So, the second idea is hydration of the system. Each and every one of you must find that it will be generally acceptable to have between 1 and 2 quarts of water a day. Otherwise, you will find you may not really readily have enough. Now, of course, every single individual is different, but you must understand something very important. When you are actually thirsty, that is your body's final signal that you do not have enough water. If you had proper hydration, you would rarely ever be thirsty. So use that as a marker. Number 3, you have heard this, of course, many times, and again, it is of paramount importance and is not to be taken lightly. Exercise. Movement. Movement is like the ability to pump the body, to allow the muscles to function as pumps for the cellular structures, to allow the water to flush the toxins from the system, to allow there to be energetic revitalization, and allow there to be strengthening of the muscular and skeletal structures, to utilize all of the different mineralogical elements that are going into the body and to allow them to act as building blocks nutritionally. Exercise and movement also in that sense will be representative of being active, of being energetic, of flowing energy through rather than allowing it to sit around and build up and convert itself into mass. In that sense, what you would call waiting to move. In that sense, in your language, then, the analogy of simply putting on weight because you are waiting to do something. The idea, then, is to understand that oxygen and hydration and movement are critical. Also, then, very important, number 4, the reduction of stress in the system. Again, many of the so-called symptoms that many of you attribute to the beginnings of disease are simply nothing more than the side effects of undue stress in your lives. We would highly and strongly recommend that you find any way, shape, and form to reduce the stress in your lives, and if that means letting go of those things such as work situations and so forth that you know in your heart of hearts do not serve you, I would recommend that you do so. Or at least use your imagination to find a way to convert that situation into something more exciting, more enjoyable, more relaxing for you. Reduction of stress is of paramount importance in your society. Number 5, the actual attempt at elimination of whatever toxins may already be in the system, removal of the toxins from the environment you are in, removal of the toxins, cleansing of the system for the buildup of toxins that may already be in the body is also of critical importance, and there are many different kinds of cleansing rituals that one can take advantage of to allow the system of the body to be cleansed out from the buildup that may have occurred over time, and to allow yourself to remove from the body many different kinds of heavy metal poisonings, and to allow yourself to pay attention to what it is you put in your body in terms of the pesticides and the heavy metal toxicity that may exist side by side with many of your foodstuffs. So removal of the toxins from the system is also of paramount importance. Number 6, the idea also of lightening up your diet in many ways, especially in that in your society you have many different kinds of hormone imbalances and toxic substances that have been injected and added to many of your foodstuff. Lightening up your diet will at the very least assist your body by the ingestion of more and more foodstuffs that contain higher amounts of water, such again as the vegetable foodstuffs in that sense, that are mostly water, just like your body, and eaten in raw, fresh state, as organic as possible, will also be of great assistance in lightening up your energy and allowing for cleansing of the system. Some small amounts for certain individuals, again, where necessary, of protein, perhaps even in meat form, is acceptable from time to time, but we would suggest that you do not overdo it, especially in the day and age on your planet where you will find that many of the protein meat substances on your planet, as we have said, are heavily laden with all sorts of toxins. Be very cautious about that idea. And also understand that as you do accelerate your energy, as you do accelerate your systems, it will be less often that you will need such support, and you will find yourself being highly energized by less and less and less. And the more natural your food is, in that sense, the more capable it is of giving you, of delivering the nutrients that you need and energizing the system so that you actually need less food. So you will find that these things will work hand in hand, that as you clarify your system, give it oxygen, give it water, reduce the stress, so on and so forth, your body will be, A, more receptive to the nutrients that are there in your natural foods, and as you then feed it more naturally, you will find that you will be energized and require far less. So these ideas are simply the foundation of health, and if you will allow yourself to recognize that these are very simple things that can be added to your life, you will understand that in, shall we just say, for analogy's sake, 99.99999999999% of the cases, these 6 ideas alone will eliminate almost any chance you will ever have of contracting any kind of disease in your life at all. So when you talk about the idea of how do we cure cancers, how do we cure AIDS, how do we cure this, how do we cure that, that's how you do it. By changing the lifestyle in that way and making sure your body has the foundational things it needs, so that you will simply never get these things, because the body in and of itself has the natural intelligence to never bring about these kinds of diseases if you simply supply it with the immediate natural fuels that it needs, which are oxygen and water and lack of stress and lightness of food in that sense. Plain and simple, that's really all it will take for most of the things and most of the ailments you find that exist upon your planet. We thank you for allowing us to share this simple notion, this simple reflection with your society at this time. In return now for the gift that you are giving our civilization in allowing us to communicate with you in this way on this day, I ask now in return, in what way may I be allowed to be of service to you? You may begin with sharing in any manner you so desire.
Good day, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I want to first ask you a question that dropped down on me. While I was sitting here, a spider dropped down on me.
All right.
Is that any significance at all?
Everything is significant in the sense of the timing of an event and what some physical object or being in your reality might symbolize to you. In general, of course, foundationally, what you might call archetypally, there are many different ideas for the spider, primarily among them being the connection to the net, the connection to the web, being at the center of all things, and knowing that by being at the center of all things, you can then pull the strings, so to speak, allow yourself to be connected to every bit of information you require, know that you are connected to the universe in that way at the center of the web, and that you don't necessarily have to go outside yourself, outside the present moment, in order to know you have the connection to everything you need in life. That is one of the things that the spider can represent. You understand?
Yes. Now, the question I really want to ask you
Yes.
is sort of about politics.
Politics.
Sort of.
Sort of. All right.
Okay. Okay. I've been noticing, like, about a month ago, one of the president's support planes went down.
All right.
And I think not so far, a couple weeks ago, 2 of his support helicopters went down.
Are you suggesting he is losing support?
Maybe. So that's my question. Is that what it's representing?
I cannot, in that sense, be definitive about this without actually discussing it with the individual in question. It can, to some degree, however, in the general understanding of the consensus, be the beginnings of the breakdown of your collective society's need to support the old system. In that sense, you are allowing the support structure to collapse. In that sense, what you have held on high is falling from the sky, and you are, in the near future, no longer going to be needing any kind of structure of that nature to live your lives for you and safeguard you from your fears. That is what the general symbology might be from one perspective.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.